What's going on, everybody? And welcome to the Scoop on College Football. We got the band back together. The StuCast is back. Hey, we're talking college football on this weekly segment. We're not sticking just to Miami Hurricanes football. We're going to venture off to the realm of college football. And we have another special guest on with us tonight, SEC Mike. Welcome to the Scoop on College Football, man. How are you doing tonight?
Doing good, boys. How are you?
Hey, man. Cousin Shane's smiling somewhere right now.
His fat ass is on the couch. Trust me.
Hey, shout out Cousin Shane. For folks who don't know, this is Michael Bratton, but SEC Mike, and that SEC podcast is absolutely phenomenal. It's my favorite. Wow, I got to shout out J-Boy too, because J-Boy does a really good SEC podcast. But like, it's nip and tuck as far as like my go-tos. But I listen to pretty much every episode. It's wonderful insight from across the league, and you're hearing a lot of really good takes straight from the coaches themselves. So, Mike, I can't tell you enough. I love the show, and I urge everybody that's watching. Go check those guys out, that SEC podcast.
Hey, appreciate the plug, man.
Always.
Stu, where do we start? I know you had a passion kind of topic you wanted to speak about off the gate. NCAA football, you think they're getting hosed. There is chaos going on. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, and Mike, you touched on it on your most recent show a little bit, For those unaware, the NCAA got pretty much manhandled by the Supreme Court. It was on C-SPAN. When the NCAA is on C-SPAN, it's not a pretty situation. They got body bagged they had a justice, I think Justice Thomas. He never speaks, and he took about 20 minutes to lay into the SEC or the NCAA. Excuse me. Wow. Pretty much, he did bring up the SEC, the pay for coaches, like how much money's being brought in, and the players aren't getting enough money. And then today, if you read ESPN, Mark Emmert met with Bohannon, the forward from Iowa, Geo Baker from Rutgers, and Isaiah Livers from Michigan. They're meeting. They are trying to say, hey, let's do a blanket name, image, likeness kind of coverall for all the players. Because like you said, Mike, the other day, Mississippi just passed it. Florida's passed it. Michigan's passed it. California's passed it. Come June, July, when these laws get enacted, I mean, the NCAA is illegal. How do you think this plays out, especially in the Southeast, to include Miami, where, let's face it, the biggest teams, the biggest, the baddest, the best teams in the country lay in the Southeast of America.
Yeah, and hey, we're in real time here. So I recorded my last podcast on Wednesday. Come Thursday morning, Georgia passed the law. So, Kirby's ass was saying, we're not going to fall behind Dan Mullen. You know what I mean? So
I've got news. Alabama's about to as well.
I think that's more significant than anything you see at the Supreme Court, all this, because all that is the NCAA's had 150 years to resolve this, and they've not gotten it done, and these states are doing it. So it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court says. It doesn't matter if it comes to fruition at the federal level and makes it legal across all 50 states or not. These states are going to do it. So, hey, we're going to find out real quick which states care the most about college football, and I think we already know the answer to that,
I hear you. It's the people that care. Paul, I want to get your take too, because I really think this is doomsday. This is the end of the NCAA as we know it. We're going to have to institute some of these things. It's coming. That day is coming. What do you think?
Players are already being paid. It's just not being acknowledged. It's under the table. There's a market for it. We see this in recruiting all the time. I know Stu would be against that, but, we're already seeing players get paid already, just not publicly. So, it's already happening. The NCAA they just don't want to pay players. And we're seeing kind of a new set of college football where the Power 5 is the dominant. All eyes are on Power 5. SEC is taking total control of the college football kind of pyramid. And, a lot of schools are going to be left out. There's no sense of being in a G5 conference. We saw Cincinnati. They basically went undefeated, had to blow out a bunch of opponents just to get recognized, and it still didn't work. You're seeing schools forced to be a part of a Power 5 conference ultimately. So, it's an interesting time in college football, and it's safe to say that, hey, if the SEC take the Big Ten and throw in the Big 12, if they want to start their own league, they probably could and get better ratings, and they would leave the NCAA.
Well, it's not 1995. I mean, Texas and Michigan tried that a long time ago.
And what?
Michigan and Texas and Nebraska were all in kind of cahoots around 95, 94. I don't know if you remember that, Mike. No. You may remember that. So there was some inklings of like a 18 to 2014 conference, take the best, and then the NCAA kind of I think it was a scholarship issue, and the NCAA kind of changed their tune once the biggest and best schools were kind of leaving and talking about leaving. So it brings to mind what you kind of said. I don't think that happens here and now because everybody's getting fat on the system. Mike, I mean, from the SEC perspective, does an NLI kind of – does it give anybody – because I imagine most states are going to pass it come football season. If Georgia's passing it, Florida's got it, Bama's already doing it, Mississippi's doing it. Does it kind of even the playing field for some of these other teams in the SEC, you think, or is it just business as usual?
I mean, it's a complete unknown, but I kind of like that because where we're at right now, I mean, we got 5-6 teams every year competing for the national championship, and that's becoming a problem. I mean, no offense. I see your Miami flag there, but if Miami loses a game, they're done. And maybe if they go undefeated, they might be done. I mean, they'd likely get in there, but then they got to face Clemson. I mean, and Clemson's going to have that advantage. So if you're a Miami fan, I'm a Tennessee graduate. I got nothing to look forward to. You know what I mean? Hell, they got to go through Georgia, Florida, Alabama. I mean, you're getting a week one and the season's damn near over. You know what I mean? So I love college football more than just about anybody, but I'm starting to see that is a little bit of a problem where you got 5 or 6 teams that are competing. Where when I grew up, when Tennessee won the national championship, 1998, I think they were like 14 or 15 in the preseason. We've seen Oklahoma when they won the national championship. I think they were in the 20s. I mean, that's when college football is at its best, when you just don't know what's coming. And once it gets too predictable and you got 5 or 6 teams, you can already set the playoff field before the season even starts. It takes something from the sport, in my opinion. So I'm hoping that that's what this does. But who knows? I mean, I really couldn't give you an answer one way or another.
Guys, there's a lot going on in college football. We just touched up on this topic. Stu believes Bryce Young will not be the starting quarterback this upcoming season for the Alabama Crimson Tide. SEC Mike is already freaking out. I'm curious, why so down on Bryce Young? I think he's incredible. I think he's going to be an NFL quarterback one day, and I'll stand by that. If I'm wrong, I'll come back on this show 3 years later, and I'll say, hey, I was completely wrong about Bryce Young. You can call me every name in the book. Stu, what's going down in Tuscaloosa that you believe Bryce Young may not be the starting quarterback?
Wait a second. Are you one of these Paul Tyson maniacs, guys?
So, okay. Okay. I'm not a Paul Tyson maniac.
That's a yes. Okay.
All I've heard from people at the practices, around the team, Bryce Young is not 100% lock to grab up the starting quarterback spot. Now, will he? Most likely. But I think Paul Tyson, who is Bear's grandson, and that carries a ton of weight in the state. He's going to have a ton of fans behind him. I've heard he's making the throws. He's very Mac Jones reminiscent from the people that are at the practices that have seen these guys come through. They're equating him to Mac Jones. And I think it's very interesting, and I think we need to stop and look at what Bama is as a program and realize that Coach Saban adapts. I mean, if you saw the video that's kind of been running around about his philosophy on offense, I reposted it because Lane got after him today, and that's why I love the Lane train. I love Lane Kiffin. But anyway.
Hey, are we allowed to curse on here? I don't want to get you in trouble.
You know what? You know what? Mike, I started this channel with 0 subscribers and a MacBook, man. You can curse. You can do it.
Well, I'm going to get you some more because Nick Saban don't give a shit who his granddaddy is. He's going to go with the most talented guy. It doesn't matter who it is. We've seen him pull a quarterback in the middle of a national championship game. I mean, this guy is going to go with the option that fits his team.
Exactly.
Steve Sarkisian has been telling people this kid, Bryce Young, most talented quarterback he's ever worked or seen play on the football field. So, hey, you might be right. There might be a competition. I don't think Nick Saban's
That's all I'm saying.
Dumb enough to say, let's anoint this guy. He's going to make him earn it. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a competition at the end of the day.
And I've never seen a quarterback this well-rounded coming out of high school that I can recall. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Bryce Young. And I mean, his football IQ is through the roof. His pocket presence is very advanced for an underclassman, second year of college football. He has a great arm, great mobile ability. He's everything you want. So, hey, I would be in complete shock if he doesn't get the starting nod against Miami come week 1. So we'll see.
All I'm saying is just don't be shocked when you see Paul Tyson in there, and they're very high on him. We'll see what happens. I think it's competition that Bryce Young ultimately wins, and you see him week 1 against Miami. But Paul Tyson is going to show up on the field on a few games. There you go.
Now, let me ask you a question real quick because we're just living in a different era right now. What happens even if Paul Tyson, let's say he beats him out, but it's very close, and Bryce Young gets pissed off and says, "I'm hitting that transfer portal."
Yeah,
I mean, is that something Nick Saban has to take into consideration if he's this good of a prospect? I mean, even Nick Saban, I think, has got to be a little bit pressured by potentially a elite quarterback, making demands, if you will.
Well, isn't Mike to some extent? I mean, all these guys are, whether it's Saban or Kiffin or Mullins, they all got to juggle quarterback situations. We're living in an age now where, I'm a Spartan, right? So I just heard from a Spartan Insider, we're getting another transfer because a spring game didn't go well for somebody. That's just the world we live in. Quarterbacks are going to start leaving because that is the primo spot. That's the primo position. They're going to start leaving en masse every other year.
Mike, I want to pick your brain because his name was mentioned on this show. The Lane train down in Oxford, Mississippi. Lane Kiffin. A lot of people are getting very excited by his first year at Ole Miss. And I'll be honest, he had a great offense. He has a great quarterback in Matt Corral. Seems like he has a great staff as well. Recruiting is clicking. But let's be real. I mean, not a lot of people win in Ole Miss. Are you a fan? Or are you on the Lane train right now? Or you're just letting it pass by and may get your ticket next year?
Can you see what color koozie I got here? I'm on the Lane train, brother.
Hey, buddy.
I don't get it. I honestly, look, I get Lane Kiffin. He's a likable guy.
You must have not watched the Matt Luke era. Let me tell you that, buddy.
Look, look, he's not stable. He can jump at any minute to another program. I think he showed that at Tennessee, going to USC. I mean, he doesn't show any stability within the program. He
did call about the Tennessee job. So
I'm just saying. You can't build any success if you jump around. There's no stability. Also, he did a good job at FAU. I just think Ole Miss is a very difficult program to win at. You're in a hot region in college football where everybody is recruiting at. You got Mississippi State, you got LSU next door, Auburn, Alabama. I mean, that's a tough place to recruit at. You're going to get the second, you're not going to get the first priorities. You're in the SEC West, correct?
Yep.
I mean, that's a tough division. Alabama dominates every single time. It's hard to win the SEC West or compete and have a 9-3 record. You're guaranteed 3 losses every year, in my opinion, with the SEC record.
Oh, yeah, but it seems like you're asking me two different questions now. Am I on the Lane train, or is Ole Miss going to win the West? I mean, I don't think they're going to win the West, but maybe that's not Ole Miss's aspirations. I mean, their aspirations are to be fun, to beat the hell out of Mississippi State, give Alabama a scare every couple of years, be competitive with LSU. Year one, he did all those with no spring. And Matt Corral was 1 foot out the door when he walked onto campus. Myself included, I was all about John Rice Plumlee. I thought he was the next Johnny Manziel.
He's my favorite player in college.
And then they insert Matt Corral. He looks like he could be a Heisman candidate. So, I mean, they got it rolling down there. They got a pretty deep quarterback room now. The defense is a travesty, but who the hell cares? I mean, they're winning these shootout games. I think Ole Miss fans just want it to be fun, want it to be competitive, and that's what the Lane train gives them, in my opinion.
Here's what I'll say about Ole Miss. And honestly, Lane Kiffin should not have been in a bowl game against Indiana last year. Lane Kiffin should not have had a winning record last year. It shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened. And you got to look at COVID. You got to look at no spring ball. There was points, and I remember listening to your show, Mike, where you had Lane on and you had the presser on, and he's like, I don't know these guys. I still haven't talked to him, and we're talking a month and a half from kickoff. So that's what you were dealing with. What he's come and done is utilize social media. The Lane train, come to the SIP. Social media is the thing right now. You better believe you need to be out there social media-wise. He's the most active head coach of all college football. He's out there doing it. The second thing is his offense works. And you take a look at Arkansas, very winnable. Auburn, the refs gave the game to Auburn. That was an Ole Miss victory. That was the punt that Auburn touched, but they didn't. That game. And then you look at the LSU game where it was like 49-42. LSU was like life and death to win that game. Ole Miss could have had a 9-1 kind of record, 9-2 kind of record. I forget how many games they played last year. It was
whoa. Let's not go overboard now.
Hey, I think
the Lane train for fun.
I think so. I'm all on the Lane train.
That's not 9-2 is fun.
Arkansas whooped that ass. Arkansas won 3 games.
So that Arkansas game, it was completely. Hey, I love you, Les. Much love, brother. The Arkansas game, when you watch it back, Ole Miss was dominating. They were just making so many mental mistakes. And you said it the other day. Matt Corral has a ton of talent. He has a $1,000 arm and at times a 10-cent head. He just does not make the right moves at times. And you can chalk that up to no spring. You can chalk that up to learning on the job. It is what it is. But that was the case. And I want to point this out. Ole Miss, the big problem, and I think J-Boy, shout out to J-Boy, he said this. Ole Miss runs so fast. When you think about basketball, we're in basketball season. Shout out Will Wade, LSU basketball. Dirty as hell, but I love it.
The Renegades.
The Renegades. When you run fast, let's take LSU basketball. They run fast. They score points fast. It's always fast break. That is Ole Miss football. All gas, no brakes. That's what they do. Unfortunately, the defense gets on the field, and they're on the field for 35 minutes. And just like LSU basketball, just like Ole Miss defense, it is non-existent. And I think you have to slow down the offense. You have to put the brakes a little bit on, and you can't throw 45-yard touchdowns to Elijah Moore every 10 seconds and expect your defense to hold. And I think that's part of why they lost to Arkansas. Because while I respect Arkansas, and that's a hell of a job Coach Pittman did, I'm not buying in. Because Felipe Franks is still a garbage quarterback to me.
He's awful. He's awful.
My man, Sam Pittman, you just assassinated his character. What the hell's going on here?
I love Sam. I think Sam's a great coach. I don't like Felipe.
I like his staff. I love Kendall Briles. I think he's a great offensive coordinator. I think he's a great offensive.
What about Barry Odom? Barry Odom's the best coach he's got on there.
Barry Odom's coach as well. Yeah.
The Hogs are on the rise, boys. Watch out for the Razor, but they're going to beat Texas week 2.
Pig Suey. Oh. Hey, Mike, we might have to do a little charity bet on that.
Oh, for sure.
So what do you guys think about Texas? I mean, Sarkisian's coming in. He's going to be head coach. I think this is a long rebuild, in my opinion. I know they have a lot of money. They can make things easier, but listen, man, Texas, you gotta bring in your own guys. You got to bring in your own culture. And Sarkisian's getting another chance to be a head coach. There's no point to bring back about the past because it's in the past. But, I think we're going to see a great offense. But, I don't think offense was the issue at Texas under Tom Herman.
Well, I like some of the staff he's hired, to be honest with you. Not watched a ton of Texas, but what I'm seeing in the news, my God, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be able to recruit with all this eyes of Longhorns, whatever the hell their damn song is. I mean,
Eyes of Texas.
I mean, my God, they're fighting over a damn fight song. So
right.
I don't know. That seems to be going sideways on them in a hurry. I don't know how they're going to be able to recruit with that. And going back to Sarkisian, yeah, I kind of doubted him as a coordinator, but hell, what did he do as a head coach? I mean, let's just talk about on the field. I mean, USC got better when he left. Washington got better when he left. Why are we acting like he's the second coming because he had 11 NFL players at Alabama and was whipping everybody's ass like every coordinator does down there?
According to Javar Thomas, he states, well, you're smoking crack if you don't think Texas can make a quick comeback. Does anyone believe Texas will make a quick turnaround?
No, they're going to lose to Arkansas.
Hey, Mike, we're going to have a charity bet on that. Best believe that. Look, I love Coach Sark. I think the way he schemes offense is it's different from the way Lane does, but I like the way he utilizes that RPO. And when you look at Texas this year with Bijan Robinson, who's I would put him as a top 2, top 3 running back coming back this year, and Thompson, who showed against Colorado that he's got it. He's got talent. This Texas team has talent, but I think the problem that Herman had was that he didn't fully utilize it because of his offense. And we see this sometimes. The way Sark runs his offense, it's the way college football needs to be ran. And it's what Coach Saban was getting at the other day. You can't run the ball anymore. It's not three yards in a cloud of dust anymore. You have to have more firepower than the other team. I think Texas sets up for it. Recruiting wise, yeah, the eyes of Texas thing is it's an issue. It's an issue. But what Sark's done and the group he's built, much like at Miami, I think it's 2 very similar stories where you're building young coaching staffs, guys that get after it, guys that have experience, guys that can get you places, and I think it's gonna be successful. This year, no, Oklahoma is a juggernaut, but in a year or 2, 3 years down the road, I think Sark gets him there. I do.
Hey, time will tell.
I've heard good things about Iowa State too, so that might be a team that can beat them too.
Iowa State's full of like super seniors. I mean, we're going to talk to Ari Temkin from SiriusXM. He covers the Big 12 there. I know he was talking to me about how they have we have these 6-year seniors, right, Mike? Where it's like they're super, super seniors. They're not. It's like college basketball rules over here. So they're full of them.
Talk college basketball.
Oh God, I've been
Mike is seeing it. He's just pushing for something.
Hey, give me some Bryant basketball. Let's talk it up.
SEC Mike, who are your 3 programs on the rise, and who are your 3 programs on the demise?
In the SEC, we talking here?
In general. But you are SEC Mike, so hey,
yeah.
You want to promote your own conference, by all means, man. I know Stu got on your bandwagon. He's wearing the LSU gear. He didn't have that in the background before. He had Michigan State.
Let me tell you this.
He didn't even have LSU or Alabama.
I'll tell you this. I'm a Spartan, and they're first and foremost. But I'll be damned if I'm missing an SEC game. I'll be damned. It is the best college football. And to be honest, I'd rather watch a lot of SEC games over NFL games.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, teams on the rise. Arkansas already mentioned for sure they're going to rise. I think people are not giving them enough credit, including you two dudes right now. I mean, Texas A&M, could you really even say that? They just coming off 8-1, 9-1.
What do you think about their quarterback situation? I think that's really the question, right? I mean,
offensive? They lost 4 of their 5 offensive. Their offensive line was the strength of the team last year. So they got a guy named Hayes King, really, really touted quarterback. He's a redshirt freshman this year. He sounds like he's the real deal. But Jimbo recently said, "Hey, we're not going into camp with any preconceived notions on who the starter is going to be." And I think that was a clear message to King. Just say, kind of like Nick Saban, nothing's going to be handed to you. So he looks like the heir apparent. And for whatever reason, I mean, Kellen Mond's a good player, but I don't know. He just never really took that next step. You know what I mean? Like, he was a good player, but never elite. So what could Texas A&M be with an elite quarterback? And I'm not saying King is going to be that right away, but if he develops into that, I think Texas A&M is going to be a hell of a dangerous team.
Here's a question for you, Mike, and this is something I've struggled with because Texas A&M made me a lot of money last year. God bless them, right? I love the Aggies. I've always wondered, Kellen Mond, I've heard amazing things about him, scouting-wise. I heard from very prominent sources firsthand that they think he's a first-round kind of guy. Do you think that it was Kellen Mond not being, quick enough, well enough at the college game, whatever you want to call it, having the skills at the college game, or do you think it was Jimbo's offense?
I think more than anything, it was the players around Kellen Mond, because his junior season, the offensive line was, I don't want to call it a disaster, but anytime they played an elite SEC team, they got abused. And then last season in particular, and his junior season, I mean, they just don't have any elite wide receivers, and that's obviously a quarterback's best friend. I mean, they've produced tight end after tight end. They've got some good running backs that made the whole thing work last year, but just never saw those deep shots. And even the receivers that did emerge at Texas A&M under Jimbo, a lot of them got hurt. So I think it was more of a product of just not having the weapons at the receiver position around him. They had I think they had 3 players either get injured or opt out during fall camp that were going to be starting receivers last season.
Well, it was pretty much James Osborne and a bunch of other guys, right?
Right, and Jones was going to be a starter. I think
Okay.
I can't remember if he opted out or if he was injured for the season. It was one or the other. And they had their Baylor Cupp, number 1 tight end prospect in the nation, blew out his knee, I believe, out for the season. I mean, they were just down guys left and right, and that's why they ran the ball so much, and they had a hell of a running game. They have, if you guys don't know, Anaya Smith. I mean, he's going to be one of the breakout players in the nation this year.
Wonderful running back. You're absolutely right, Mike.
Stu, are you gonna get his jersey in the back, put him back to your wallpaper?
If Texas A&M had a player, what's coming up next is an Ole Miss Hunter right back there to go between my LSU. It's going to be all SEC West because that's where the real football is played, not in the East.
Guys, Clemson football. I have a theory. I think it's trending downward. I think it already peaked. In my opinion, I don't think they will win a national title moving forward under Dabo Swinney's tenure. Am I crazy, or do you guys agree?
I've heard a lot of that this offseason. And obviously they're losing generational quarterback.
Yeah.
I think Clemson, though, maybe they get a little overrated because who in the hell do they play every year? I mean, no offense, but I mean, they got Miami and then Florida State's been down. They played Notre Dame here recently. I mean, it seems like maybe. But even still, I mean, that's your toughest game. Imagine if North Carolina was Alabama's toughest game. I mean, my God, you know what I mean? Alabama's going up against NFL players every single week. Who in the hell is Clemson going against? No, I buy into that fully. The defense has been exposed in big-time games. Trevor Lawrence is gone. I know the kid they've got not even going to try to say his name. He was pretty touted.
Ugalagale.
He looks pretty good, but is he Trevor Lawrence good?
No.
I think that's too much to ask.
I think Clemson. It remains to be seen. They have the talent. They have the talent on the field. They have the 5 and the 4 stars, or the 17 platinum triangles, whatever you want to give them. They have them all on the field. The question is like Mike said, that defense was exposed last year. It was. I think a team like Miami is very dangerous this year because the defense, in my estimation,
Bob Shoop
may be a little bit better. I think.
Yeah, Mike liked that one.
I think Miami's defense is going to be better than last year. I mean, it has to be.
Is that where Bob Shoop's at now?
Yeah.
I lost track of that guy. I mean, my God, he got Butch Jones fired.
Broyles Award finalist, SEC experienced defensive coordinator, comes to the ACC Coastal. It's got to work. It can't not work.
He did a hell of a job for Vanderbilt, and I thought at the time Mississippi State, but Mississippi State just had a hell of a lot of NFL talent. Then they went off a damn cliff when those guys left.
That's what I said, man. When that hire came, like that. Mississippi State, people sleep on them, but they get talent down in Stark Vegas. They get a lot of talent down there. But I think
here's the deal with that. If I can interrupt you just for a moment.
Go for it.
I don't know how much you guys know about the recruiting evaluations, and I've got all the respect in the world for all those guys. I'm not calling them out by any means because they got a tough job. But when you look at Rivals and 247 and ESPN and all that, I know 247's got a large staff, but at the end of the day, they've only got a select number of people rating these players. And how they do it, when they get them at these Nike opening camps and Under Armour games and rival camps and all that. And then on Fridays, they try to go to as many games as they can. But are you going to drive the back roads of Mississippi to go look at a lineman? Or are you going to go to Atlanta where you can see 25, 30, 40, 50 prospects? They hit up those big areas, whereas Mississippi State, they find this kid 3 hours from the highway and they don't tell anybody about him. And that's why, it's not like they have an entire roster of NFL players, but every couple of years they got 3 or 4 elite players that nobody knew who the hell they were coming out of high school. And it's because a lot of these recruiting analysts just didn't take the time to go watch them in high school. And I don't blame them for doing it,
There's so much dirtiness when it comes to star rankings and and everybody's culpable. It's a whole nother show. But Mike, you're absolutely 100% right.
You said that a lot tonight. I like that, man. I'm gonna do this show more often.
Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you what. The only thing you're not right about is cousin Shane is not a Tennessee homer. He's a very conscientious, fair fan. And that's where I'll disagree with you.
So, Mike, I got to pick your brain. I mean, graduate of Tennessee. I mean, what's the state of the program right now? I mean, it's kind of in a similar situation with, the program I love, Miami. It seems like it's a revolving door with a new coach every 4 to 5 years. You have the talent. It just doesn't pan out. What do you think's going on? You think Josh, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Whipple?
Heupel.
Shit, you got me on that one. I would have never.
Former Oklahoma quarterback. Come on, you don't remember that?
Yeah, he won a national championship.
Yeah, geez.
Heisman runner-up. One of the best coaches in the world.
When I think of Oklahoma quarterbacks, I think of Jason White in my age group.
Okay.
I'm 94. I was born in 94. Give me credit.
That guy's half the quarterback of Josh Heupel.
So
sick burn.
Josh Heupel. I mean, is he the right guy to get Tennessee back to the T. Martin days, or?
I don't know if he's the right guy, but he may have been the best guy they could get. And I don't say that as a slight to Josh Heupel, but program's in a wicked tough spot because they got allegations out there. There's going to be likely sanctions coming. I mean, it's just a very, very difficult job to recruit to. But it's almost, I equate it to Lane Kiffin. I know you got your questions about Lane Kiffin. That's kind of where I want Tennessee to be. Can they be exciting on the field? They may give up 40 points a game, but are they going to score 45 and steal a win here or there? That's what Tennessee should be. And based on what we've seen from Josh Heupel at UCF, what we saw at Missouri. I mean, he's got one of the most dynamic offenses in the SEC. We've seen that it works in the conference. When he was at UCF, I mean, we're talking top 5 offense in the country by advanced analytics. So I think, that might be putting the sights a little too high, but we're talking Tennessee's like a top 120 offense. If he can get it into the top 25, I think that's a huge success this season. They may be dead last in the SEC in defense, but hell, it's going to be entertaining. And I think that's all you can ask for if you're a Tennessee fan. Just have him kind of just hold the boat above water until, if there are sanctions, kind of work their way through that, almost like a Matt Luke a couple of years ago. But I think he's even better than Matt Luke because he's got that head coaching record, because he's got SEC coordinating experience. I don't think he's going to be over his head at Tennessee. And I also like the fact, people like to point the fact that he got fired he was Oklahoma's offensive coordinator. Imagine if Peyton Manning came to Tennessee and was the coordinator, had success, and then got fired, and everybody's favorite son, was almost disgraced. That's what happened to Josh Heupel at Oklahoma. And instead of just ending his college career, which a lot of people would have done, he had to go to Utah State. I know that's way off the beaten path, but what did he do there? He found Jordan Love, who became a first-round draft pick that nobody else wanted. And then he went to Missouri, and he made Drew Lock into an NFL quarterback. And when he left, Drew Lock went off a damn cliff. And then he went to UCF. And I'm afraid I don't know the quarterback's name, but
Casey Milton.
Yeah, he's awesome. So he found that guy, and he developed him. I mean, he's got a strong-ass track record of developing these offense, developing these quarterbacks, and that's what Tennessee has been suffering at for years and years, quarterback and offense. And that's all I want to see from him is develop those two positions, and I think it's already an upgrade if he can do that.
Wrong hire. Well,
Ooh.
I'll say this.
Love it.
Right hire, wrong time.
No.
Right hire, wrong time.
You did not like the hire. You just stated that.
I didn't.
You said wrong hire.
I personally, if they would have they had Kevin Still in as the interim coach, you got to imagine sanctions are coming. But even still, you need that transition. This year is going to be a giant dumpster fire. It is going to be atrocious.
What?
Yes. Throwing Josh Heupel into it. First year, not great. Not great. I mean, it has been abandoned ship, Bobby Ross style, since he got there. They don't have a recruit coming up in the upcoming classes. What is it, 22 class?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I think Josh Heupel might be the right guy. I'm not impressed with his UCF track record. I think people that know UCF football know that it's kind of a mirage. They're in the AAC. They get outcast guys that can't make the SEC schools. Mm-hmm. There is a dearth of talent in Florida. They run that offense like an SEC offense. It's fast, it's in motion, it's RPO. They do all that stuff, and they dominate the AAC. I mean, Temple isn't going to run that offense, okay? I think there's a lot of things that Heupel had set up for him from Scott Frost at UCF, so he just took over the machine, and I wasn't super impressed. Him going to Tennessee, it's a bad spot right now. I wish they would have waited a year or two. Give Kevin Steele a shot. Kevin Steele was the perfect guy. You talk about Matt Luke. Matt Luke being a fantastic transition guy to Kiffin. That's the guy. Kevin Steele was the guy, transition guy. You throw Josh in. I really worry this year's a bad year. Next year's a tough year. Where are you at year 3? Because you got to give him 5-6 years to turn it around.
If Scott Frost was such a genius, why isn't Nebraska worth the shit?
Because it's Nebraska, and this is in 1995.
And I see what you're saying, but at the same point, would Ole Miss be further along right now had they hired Lane Kiffin instead of Matt Luke?
Yes.
Right. So that's what Tennessee just did. Instead of hiring a guy that, has got basically no track record of being a head coach in Kevin Steele, career assistant. One time he was at Baylor. I think his record was like 3-22, something crazy bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's a hell of a coach. I'll give you that. I would have been supportive of that move for sure. But look at all the teams that are good in college football. It's an offensive game. It's a quarterback game. What gives you the belief that Kevin Steele would have been able to fix that at Tennessee? I got no confidence unless I knew
Kevin Steele wouldn't have been able to fix it, Mike. I completely agree with you. But
Bill O'Brien would have been the right guy for the job. Bill O'Brien would have been a great hire.
Bill's not going to take that job. He already did it at Penn State.
NFL head coach. He's been through a sticky situation at Penn State. Great experience overall. Goes to Tennessee, which is a tough job. That is a very tough job to win. Okay, you're in a tough division in the SEC East. Everyone is breathing down your throat. Okay, you have to win football games in the toughest conference. Bill O'Brien would have been a great hire, and they had the money for it.
I don't think they could have gotten him. I think Alabama offensive coordinator is a better job than Tennessee head coach right now.
Wow, and that's coming from a graduate. Hey, at least
there's sanctions coming.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien can go down to Alabama, have success 1 or 2 years, and then he's a head coach immediately.
All right,
Hey, Paul. I thought I saw a question. Bama against Miami. I'm curious, Mike. What first game of the season? Bama taking on the Hurricanes from Coral Gables. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that first game?
I think it'll probably be a 20-point margin by the end of the first quarter. That would be my
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised.
I mean, are you kidding me? We do this every year. It's Louisville. It's USC. It's whoever the hell you want. Everyone gets hyped up for Duke. Well, let's not disgrace Miami that bad. But there's always this marquee opponent that gets they're the off season's rejuvenated. I just heard Manny Diaz say that. We're getting fired up for week 1. Well, good luck, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, no, there's no chance in hell they're competitive against Alabama.
Hey, I'm gonna throw this out there, okay? You look back at Alabama first game of the season. I'm not saying they're gonna lose, but I'm saying this. You look at Missouri, that was 38-19. Granted, there's some points at the end, whatever. I'm just looking at final score, right?
Mm-hmm.
They play that game at the end of the year. It's probably not 38-19. You look at Duke recently. I think the year prior was Duke, and that was only a 18, 20-point game, if memory serves me correct. It might have been a year or two ago. I'm off on my memory. Concussions. Shout out Will Smith. So my thing is like, I think Miami, if they come correct, and De'Eric has to be healthy, this offense has to be going. They have to show them. They have to follow the Lane kind of playbook of, we're going to show you something completely different from what we've ever done. And that's why Ole Miss almost beat them last year. We have to show you something completely different. Shout out Eric. I think Miami can be competitive. Now, defensively, I think that's where it's going to be interesting because, you're getting a lot of guys, some SEC cast-offs. You're getting some guys that are, their second year of starting. It's a young defense still. So God bless them, thoughts and prayers. We'll see what happens. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think Miami keeps it very respectable, and it could be close. And I'm a Bama guy. You see the helmet.
Well, I appreciate you saying those kind words for Paul, but there's no chance in hell.
I've stated on this show that if Miami beats Alabama, there will be a major motion picture film on the game. I have stated that on this show. Here's one thing, though. Rhett Lashley still has not proven to me to have an appropriate offensive game plan against an elite defensive coordinator or against a good defense. I feel like he panics some. I thought he panicked tremendously and put on the brakes against Clemson and Death Valley. Brett Venables, basically sat him down and said, hey, I'm the professor and you're the student. Ultimately, it's going to be, Miami, if they want a shot in this game, which is going to be very difficult, you can't get caught up in the big lights, on the Crimson Tide. You got to go into the game sticking to what you've been taught the entire offseason. De'Eric King's coming off of a torn ACL. The cards are stacked against you. Miami's offensive line
is this Stu's scoop on the U? I don't know.
Well,
Mike, maybe you could join me.
Listen, I'm with Mike on this one, man. I can see this is a big disaster on Miami's end. But I hope it's not just for national respect. And I'll tell you what, if Alabama blows out Miami on national TV, Manny Diaz is on the hot seat, and every single game, all eyes will be on him. Because
and Mike, you back me up if you want. I think the Alabama game, Miami's going to play tough. Where I'm worried about Miami is App State, Michigan State. I'm worried about those two games because once they get into ACC competition, they're just faster, they're stronger, they're better. What App State is this year, I mean, they love to run, and we know what that running game does to Miami. Mike, I know you love you some Fun Belt football. I know it.
Yeah. Those damn Appies, man. They're still my mentions, but 2-3 years later from that damn South Carolina game.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, that's a team that runs the ball. In Michigan State, we're going to have somebody on this program down the road that is a MSU insider that, this team it's completely different. It's a completely new team. You throw out
Wait a
last
second.
year.
So you're thinking Miami can face Miami can face Alabama tough, but Appy State you're worried about?
I'm worried about it because
what are we doing here? How much have you had to drink, brother?
Alabama doesn't play hard first game of the year. They don't come out and they don't kill teams. They don't put foots on throats. And I think Miami's talented enough to stand up for themselves and make a very respectable game.
Did you watch the USC game a couple years ago? What was it, 52-10 first game?
I will tell you this. I know USC's doing big things. Clay Helton has been having some amazing recruiting classes. I'd take Miami's program in a heartbeat over that. But I think Miami's much more respectable. I think the problem is App State does exactly what the kryptonite to Miami is. So I'm concerned about that. I mean, it's a very fast, very running-oriented offense, and defensively, they're respectable. They're very respectable efficiency-wise. Michigan State, I have no idea. I'm a Spartan fan. You have 22 new starters on the ball. They're all transfers from all across the country. Who the hell knows? That's what I'm worried about. You have two unknowns as to how you're going to really how you're going to perform defensively against a rush-oriented offense, and a question mark with Michigan State because I don't think anybody knows, and there's no tape to base it off of.
Sounds like old Stu's trying to get that bottle service down in South Beach with all these comments.
Hey, look.
Stu's looking for a bandwagon. He's on the Lane train. He's on Will Wade's LSU's basketball program. He's just trying to find his way on.
Like Taylor Swift said, haters gonna hate.
Anyways, Mike, it was a pleasure to have you on. Stu's got a date with like 4 equestrians he's going to have on his podcast. I don't know how you even find equestrians, how you network with them, but hey, it is what it is.
Hey, horses running around in a circle, baby. Mike, I thank you again for coming on. That SEC podcast, where can the people find it? I listen to it every week. It is phenomenal. It's my favorite SEC podcast. I love Jay Boy. I got to give it to that SEC pod.
Hey, appreciate the shout out. Yeah, it's available on all platforms. You can follow me on the Twitters, SEC Mike. Head on over to I work for Saturday Down South. I run the news desk over there. And hey, if you want to give us a 5-star written review, send you one of these bad boys. We got 12 teams, all different, every team in the SEC represented. So thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate you.
I already wrote my 5-star review. I'm going to write another on my wife's phone and then send it in because I need one.
Yes, sir. You'll have it by the end of the week.
Hey, give Cousin Shane my best, will you?
Will do.
All right, Mike. Take care. And it's a wrap.